Hi, everybody. Welcome back to SaaS Founder Stories. My name is David Brennan, and today I have Scott Edmonds, the CRO and one of the founding members of Syncari. And welcome to the show, Scott. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, man. So let's chat a little bit about Syncari, what you guys do. Give me the use case, ideal customer, and then we can jump into you teaching us a little bit because I'm really excited about what you and I talked about prior to recording.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. Let me start with the problem first, and I'll back into what we do. The problem that we noticed at companies that we worked at before even starting Syncari was it's really because it's a problem that happened as a result of SaaS becoming a thing, which is everybody's internal data is a mess. It's all over the place, right? We run our business off of, 5, 10, 20, 50 SaaS applications. They are all departmental. They all have different definitions for the core concepts of things, and every system is semi to very dirty, and the data doesn't match. And so therefore there's a real question of like, hey, what's actually going on inside our company, and how can I make sense of the data from department to department, right? We all came from a marketing background, the founding team here. We all worked at a company called Marketo. And so we saw that, hey, gosh, people are trying to get accurate data in their marketing automation systems to run targeted campaigns, and nothing matches. The finance data is inaccurate as per the marketing team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The customer status is inaccurate. Somebody's having a support issue. Why are they getting a cheerful marketing campaign? That kind of a thing. And so how do you align all this stuff across the company? And so what Syncari does, we are a software platform. We're an autonomous data management software platform that you can think of us as an enterprise class data hub. You plug all of your different systems, your CRM, your billing system, your ERP, your support, your product, your data warehouse, anything where there's an important piece of the customer's identity, create a unified golden record of anything, the account, the contact, the lead, whatever, essentially, and then, fix it, enrich it, deduplicate it, clean it, and keep it in sync, hence our name, with all of these different places. So I think a nirvana state could be that no matter what department I work in, I'm an SDR and I work in outreach, I'm a marketer and I work in HubSpot, and I'm a salesperson, I work in Salesforce, I'm finance and I work in NetSuite, product and I look at Snowflake a lot, all these different products, the report should be the same, or the most important thing should be the same that you're looking at in any application that you care about.
Very cool. So for you, who's your ideal customer?
Good question. As all startups, this has shifted a little bit. We've built this to be codeless, right? In the past, this is very much kind of an IT project. There's latency between front and the back of the house, as there's always been. And so it's like, hey, who gets data? Who can speak Python and SQL and all these other things? Well, oftentimes that's more back of the house. And so we built this to be codeless because this was what we learned at Marketo was, hey, marketers really want just a system that they can build a campaign and run it without having to collaborate with IT, et cetera. And that turned out to be a super winning sauce. And so for us, we built this to be codeless for the front of the house so that, hey, you guys in revenue operations, sales operations, marketing operations, et cetera, can get a hold of your data, clean it, organize it, and deploy it any which way you need to do so. We're still doing that, right? Increasingly, though, we are selling to the back of the house for these two teams to collaborate better on. Because I think what's been interesting to learn is that it's not as simple as just the data is good. I think you really need a data strategy. And, most of myself included in the front of the house are not real great at concocting data strategies that are, enterprise wide. So we sell to a little bit of a combination of front of the house, and I think about, like the CFOs, CROs, the operations folks that support them. And then of course the, directors of IT, VPs of IT, and those types of folks. There's another qualifier here
Very
too.
cool.
Every company has this problem, from small startups to giant enterprises. Unsurprisingly, the more data you have, the more impactful this is, and the more customers you have, the more data problems that you have. You probably have a lot of legacy operational debt. And so there is more value and probably more interest, I'd say, from the medium to larger size of the market. So, I mean, even though we do have a small handful of, I think smaller companies, you can kind of get by, with your data being a little bit messy or just stuffing everything in your CRM. That becomes pretty untenable when you get to be, a small enterprise to a big enterprise company.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting differentiation because like at Archeo, we look at that SMB range where the data warehousing cleaning isn't as big of an issue. But as soon as you get past a certain size, the complexity of the systems involved and the data sets really make it incredibly challenging for companies to know what's happening without a tool like your guys's or a system like yours to help them have that one source of truth. I think that's super cool. Cool, man. So
Well,
give me this is one of the fun ones that go ahead, sorry.
and also I was just going to suggest even just you're right, but I think then the autonomous, once you've got your code, your process designed, it just always works, right? I mean, what we hear constantly, especially from front of
Hmm.
the house, the ops folks supporting the CRO, CFO, CMO, is just they're constantly in firefights, right? And they can almost predict what the firefights are going to be tomorrow, but they still have to do them because that's just how the systems work, right? And so if you can automate that so that these things
Hmm.
are proactively extinguished, I mean, that's what we're all about in helping people fix bad legacy issues. And the thing that 4 Salesforce admins ago did for some reason that nobody knows why, and helping to unravel all that.
That's so cool. Okay, man. So in a couple minutes, we'll go into like the training side, but give me your guys' origin story. Tell me how it all came about.
Well, so I think I mentioned this earlier. We all used to work together at Marketo. So our SVP of engineering, our CTO, our CEO, and myself were all uh, at Marketo, defining this, category of marketing automation, taking the clock way back to like 2008. And so there was, like I said, a lot of our customers were struggling with their data. Back in the data model was really just your CRM, and then the market automation system was an empty vessel. So like you just click go, and then your CRM was mirrored over in your market automation system. So whatever happened in your CRM was what was in your marketing system. But we'd have a lot of customers being like, "Oh man, I pulled this segment, the data's wrong." Well, obviously your CRM data is wrong, right? And then when the world gets bigger than your marketing and your CRM, and I think this is what's been interesting about the SaaS revolution, right? Because I time framed that on purpose. Back in 2008, we just weren't running very many SaaS applications, 2, 3, maybe 4, and you
Hmm.
could kind of get by, right? And especially even mid, it wasn't widely adopted by enterprise, so there was a lot of mid market selling that we did back in those days. Fast forward 15 years, ugh, 15, we run 40 different applications, core ones. We probably run hundreds of like minor ones too to do a thing. And that is a
Hmm.
bona fide mess, right? And so back to the origin story, it was just kind of like there was another thing where our CEO tells a story where he would be in the executive leadership team meeting. He was the chief product officer at Marketo, and each division, departmental leader would be doing their number readouts, and our CEO would be, why doesn't everything match? And so it's like kind of like an aha, like, hey, we're smart and we're pretty good at this stuff, and yet we still data drifts and people do different things in departments,
Hmm.
and it's hard to align. So this is the origin story is like, hey, if we could crack that, if we could just crack that so that each department and their leadership team meeting has the same data, and this is not like a giant operations firefight to get it ready every week or every quarter or every month or whatever you do, that's a win. And then downstream, obviously, if we can save the lives of the good ops folks and IT folks trying to get this stuff done every day, and um, just make it a lot less expensive to do, that's a huge win. And I think finally this kind of goes without saying, hopefully, but like the people actually doing the work, the AEs, the marketers, the support people, the SDRs who are just trying to make sure that they're all working off the same data set, they can run much more effectively and much more streamlined.
Cool. So let's talk about what you're going to teach us about that you guys kind of went through in the last 6 months. Just to set it up in our conversation, you were telling me about transitioning from creating your own market segment into identifying with an existing one so that your customer could actually understand you. So walk me through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like any good ambitious startup, we went out to market with like, hey, market, good news. There's a new category, and guess what? We're the only vendor in it. Let's talk. And there was interest, right? I mean, but I think it was still difficult for people, especially with data. Like in selling marketing technology, you kind of know what people are responsible in a marketing organization, generally speaking. But like in data, there's so much cross-functional overlap. People are responsible for little sections of it, but there's very rarely somebody responsible for all of it. Even a data team, they're not responsible for the operational data. They're responsible for the data warehouse and getting reports and AI models and propensity models and things like this together. So what the market was telling us, is, hey, this is cool. Yeah, we get this, but I'm really not sure where to put you, budget wise, or even just like how to think about who should be responsible for something like this. And so what we did is we kind of thought long and hard about it, like, all right, well, what is our product most like? What is it really? And at its core, it's a very modern, next generation integrated master data management platform, right? A category that's existed for a long, long time. And it's having a little bit of a renaissance right now just because of this fact that everything is a mess, right? And MDM can be a way to fix for that. And we've added some autonomous nature to it, right? Which is our big differentiator, right? Not only do you just get the data model clean and golden and fixed and unified, but you make sure that it's automating all of the processes and the data syncs with all of your different systems. So AKA keeping your whole stack in sync. So that's unique to us in the MDM category. And so I think, since we've done that pivot, it's been a lot easier to get meetings because there is a bona fide buying committee, for people who buy MDMs. Right. And then it's a question of like, can we, win their hearts and minds, et cetera. But like from a go-to-market perspective of where should we spend dollars and where should the SDRs and the AEs be prospecting? I think in the first couple of years, it was a little bit more scattershot where we were trying a lot of things, as all startups should and should do. But I think it was made a little bit more complicated because we're like this unique self-created category. And that came from a good place, by the way. Like, I mean, we were part of a successful category creation at Marketo. Market automation did not exist before 2008. And then, with companies like Marketo and HubSpot and Pardot and a couple others in there, it certainly is a category now. And so we were trying to recreate what we knew and saw successful there. But I think data is just, a slightly different beast when you get down to it.
So Mike, I got a question for you because I think this is really interesting. I see this quite a bit where as a startup, you're trying to figure out, are we in a space, like, are we in a segment already? Are we making a segment? There's a conversation that you're having because you're trying to express to the people you're raising money from that you're different and, like all of those things are happening. And so for me, it's like, okay, this is a really great moment with someone that's kind of gone through this. What's your advice for a company on trying to determine if you should be creating a market segment or if you should be attaching to an existing? How do you kind of figure that out?
Well, I mean, I think, I don't think there's a clean answer to that. I think you want to do something that makes your go to market as smooth and easy as possible, right? And the market has to be ready for it. The market was ready for market automation, right? Because, email, 2008 was still relatively new, certainly as a marketing channel, right? And so I think that more marketers were like, okay, I mean, I'm trying to even remember some of the platforms back then, Vertical Response, Exact Target. These are successful, good companies, but man, they still needed some IT and some engineering, and you needed to know HTML and CSS. And you needed to know how to pull a report from SQL, use SQL to pull reports and things like this. And then they're like, gosh, I'm a good marketer. I know my markets. I know my segments. I know my messaging. I just can't run a freaking campaign at the time that I need to. And so the timing was ripe, right? So I think if your market is ready for it, shoot, go for it, right? Differentiate from all these other email tools and call yourself market automation with a justification on it. So I think it's always worth a try. But like, I think, if you find that no idea if your marketing spend is working, no idea if your sales is prospecting into the right accounts with the right message, because it's so broad and you're trying to please a lot of different people and sell to a lot of different types of ICPs and champions while you figure your stuff out, that's where it becomes painful. I mean, what I would say with the Marketo experience, and I think this is clear-eyed as opposed to rose-colored glasses, is, it was always a challenge to go to market. But the ICP always, I feel like that was pretty well locked almost from day one. I think we're constantly going up market and into more and more enterprisey type stuff. But, who wanted to use it and why they wanted to use it, we pretty much nailed that from day one. And that's unique, I think. Not a lot of, categories or companies get to do that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because like knowing the problem, I'll say, and why it's a big deal really allows you to build a product that works. Right. I think that's a big challenge for a lot of founders is going from I have this idea for a product to transitioning to the customer's actual problem and then working over time to solve it and figuring out who that ideal customer is. To nail it early is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, this is some of the business 101, who are you selling to and why, right? And so like, we feel extraordinarily confident about the problem, but I think what we do find from company to company is the owner of it and the champion of it does shift a little bit. This is just our story, right? So it could be a director of IT, it could be, a revenue operations person, it could be a marketing operations person, and that ball does get passed, right? I mean, I think the best case scenario for us is, and this is a complex sale in this regard, is if we get both of those, the IT and the front of the house personas in the room at the same time to say that, oh yeah, we could collaborate and solve a ton of problems with one stroke if we do this right. That's the best. That's the best case scenario. Like back to marketing technology, you could sell a really powerful piece of marketing technology to a marketing team and the rest of the company would have zero idea that it's in play or what it's for or whatever. In this case, I think people need to know that data is accurate and that they can trust it. That's today, I think the status quo is that that's very departmental still, right? And they're still trying to stuff everything into their CRM or whatever and call it the single source of truth. I think the data warehouses have done very well at trying to be that single source of truth on occasion. But man, all the systems are still very much out of sync. So this is our mission, our hill to climb.
Nice. I love it. Cool, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I always like to ask if there's anything that we can help with. We want to put it out to the network and hopefully if somebody hears this, they can jump up and say, hey, Scott, I can help you with this. So what's the one thing we can help you with?
Good question. I mean, just if anybody wants to talk data, I mean, we're hosting a lot of different data meetups across the US. We're having one actually this morning in Atlanta. San Francisco coming up. So, I mean, the most interesting thing about this is not like come hear our pitch, but I think come and just talk about like what data catastrophes are existing in different places and why. My favorite part of the go-to-market function is just hearing people's stories about it. So I don't think that was a real ask exactly, but I am interested in talking to anybody, data bonfires and if they want to hear the Syncari pitch, great, but I'd love to just kind of hear stories.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Scott, and I hope we get to chat again soon.
Me too. Thanks again for having me.